This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 334 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Dortmund shellacking Peter Stöger, a Brazilian Jair Jesus joining on a 2-year loan deal from Real Madrid, Kevin Großkreutz big day, and we will answer some listener questions. And for all that and more joins me Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing?
Hi, Stefan. I'm melting. How are you doing?
Why is that always the answer? Lars had the exact same answer last week. Why are you melting? Is it hot in Colorado, or are you, I don't know, on a summer vacation somewhere on a hotter place?
No, I mean, it's hot in Colorado. I mean, thankfully, I live up in the mountains. So for us, hot is like 29, 30 degrees Celsius, so is that like 85, 86 degrees?
But don't Americans pride yourselves with all the ACs you have everywhere? How come
we don't have air conditioning?
What?
We have the outdoors, Stefan. We do not have air conditioning at almost 8,000 feet of elevation. In Colorado, we open up the windows because at night the temperature drops down about 52 degrees, so which is about 12 degrees Celsius. So it's nice and cool in the evening. Once the sun dips behind the mountain, all is good. But no air conditioning here.
All right, melt away then. Anyway, before we begin, I made Lars do this, and I will make you do the same. And that is for new-time listeners, since it's sort of the start of a new season, and so everyone can introduce themselves a little bit to listeners who may have just picked up the Yellowwallpod and doesn't know exactly who is behind which and what voice. So Matthias, I guess the old guy of the Yellowwallpod, you may introduce yourself a little bit.
Well, you took my intro away. I'm old. No, I'm not that old. You know, I'm barely above 40, which obviously for you guys is really old since you're barely 30. But so what to say about myself? I started the Yellow Wall podcast back in 2012. God, it's already been 8 years. That's insane. Lifelong Borussia Dortmund supporter from Westfalen, from the Münsterland originally, and have kind of been following the ups and downs from Borussia Dortmund since earliest childhood. So that would put it into the early to mid 1980s. And yeah, you know, I mean, starting the Yellowwall podcast 8 years ago, and then Stefan, you joining, I think halfway through that season, roughly. And you taking it to the next level. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm the old guy.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for someone else to take it to level 3. Yeah, no, but I guess I'm the only one actually born and raised in Dortmund. Well, actually, I'm not born in Dortmund, sadly, because my mother was working as a nurse in Witten, which is a little town 20 kilometers outside of Dortmund, but I guess raised in Dortmund still. Grew up a stone throws away from the Westfalenstadion, so I never really had much choice in picking a club, to be honest. But yeah, that's obviously all nice and well, Matthias, and I'm very glad you started the Yellowwallpod, or we wouldn't have this show in our, what is it now, 8th season or 9th season?
Starting the 9th season, yeah. But I will add a disclaimer. My grandfather and that side of the family, my mother's side of the family, originally comes from Dortmund. So there is Dortmund blood there for sure.
Well, funny you mention that, because my parents should be big rivals when it comes to football, because my mother is from Gelsenkirchen and my dad is from Dortmund, and they picked a flat, like I said, outside of the Westfalenstadion, maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes on by foot or so, and none of them really cares about football, so they both couldn't care less, which is probably quite well, because having a mother as a Schalke fan would absolutely suck. So it's good that this isn't the case, but still greetings to my uncles who will look forward to an absolutely terrible season. So anyway, before we talk even more nonsense, it's time to announce the sponsor of this episode, and the episode is sponsored by our longtime listener Nicolas Campion. I hope I pronounced that correctly, who wants to give a shout out to us. That's right. He wanted to thank us for our commitment over the years, and he is looking forward to another year of great content along with epic Matthias rants. So Matthias, pressure's on. I don't know if you've prepared, in quotation marks, a rant for today.
No, there's not really a lot to rant about right now.
No.
I mean,
not yet.
We'll talk again in a month.
Anyway, if you want to sponsor an episode, go to patreon.com/theyellowwall for more information. And now I guess it is time for us to talk a little bit about the 11-2 win of Dortmund against Austria Wien. I don't know, have you actually seen the game? Maybe I should start with that.
I just saw some highlights. That's kind of one of those things. I don't really pay attention to preseason friendlies. I rarely, if ever, have watched any unless I happen to be in town and they happen to be in town and I went and live to see it. But watching it on YouTube or anything like that, it's like, all right, whatever. That's how much weight I tend to give preseason friendlies.
Yeah, I mean, It's more entertaining right now if you watch the Schalke preseason friendlies, to be honest. But no, I think it was another positive showing of the boys, especially. The kids, the 17-year-olds and 20-year-olds are really fun, and Jude Bellingham once again looking rather good. But obviously we do not know how this really pans out once the season starts. I guess the good news for Dortmund is that Marco Reus is back in team training, at least. Matthias, are you encouraged by that, or do you still think that the team captain will probably miss a fair stretch?
Oh, I mean, obviously I'm optimistic about it. I guess we'll have to wait and see as far as if he gets any minutes in any of the friendlies. And I guess I have to revise my statement before when it comes to not really caring about preseason friendlies. Obviously, fitness is the one thing I do care about, in particular, injury rehab or not getting injured in preseason friendlies. That definitely is of interest. I think if he's already starting in team training, maybe we'll see him in about a month, maybe when the season kicks off. But I think it'll be a gradual coming back, but he should be back to full fitness, I would estimate. At latest in October, we'll see him in the starting 11 at some point. As far as missing any other long stretches in the season, I mean, it's Marco Reus. Unfortunately, he's had very few seasons where he didn't have injuries, longer term injuries. So hopefully this will be one of those, but odds are he's going to miss a few weeks here or there at minimum.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because he injured himself and his adductors during a shot in the German Cup against Werder Bremen, which Dortmund obviously lost 3-2. And it's been half a year now. And when the last season was still ongoing, there were speculations whether he would return toward the end of the season, but they said they will deliberately take it slower. And then when he wanted to pick up team training, then he felt pain in the place where he picked up his injury when he took shots. And then Dortmund said at the end of July that he is for now out indefinitely. And there were some speculations bubbling up here and there that he may need surgery, which is obviously less than ideal. But luckily now he is re-entered team training, but they're trying to ease him into it. And I actually yesterday, because I don't have anything better to do apparently, but I was writing a little column for our patrons, And I actually sat down again because the kicker wrote the other day that Marco Reus missed like 57% of the games, and I wanted to double check whether that's actually true. And it's sort of true. So he played 57% or 57.59% of all minutes since arriving at Dortmund in 2012, I think. So pretty much when you started the podcast, Marco Reus played a little bit over half of the minutes. The games he played in at least is at 66.83%. And so then again, I looked at the last 4 seasons, and the minutes played is then only at 46.6%, and the minutes missed obviously in return at 53.4. So it's sadly not a good trend for Marco Reus, and I really hope that he can finally overcome this. But it's sad, and this is, I guess, also why Dortmund signed Jaime Jesus from Real Madrid. The 18-year-old kid who, I think Michael Zorc said they have been scouting for about 2 years, so a little bit longer, and now needed another addition because they know games come in thick and fast. Matthias, I don't expect you to be an insider when it comes to that particular 18-year-old that joined Real Madrid in last winter and didn't play for them, because I think there's like a non-EU player rule where in Spain you can play more than 3 non-EU players, and they have already 3 other Brazilians that they like to play. So I guess that was the main reason why he never featured for them. But I guess in playing side, he is supposed to be a little bit similar to Marco Reus. Others say Gio Reyna, others say Kai Havertz. So I think Lucien Favre said he's like a false 9-ish kind of candidate, likes to play most of the time in the center behind the strikers, so maybe number 10. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but overall, what are your thoughts on that addition?
Well, I've seen him described as a classic old school number 10, whatever the hell that means. I know I saw snippets of him when he was still playing for Flamengo, and he was quite integral when they won the Copa America, if I remember correctly. Copa Libertadores, sorry.
Copa America is the international tournament, I think.
Yeah, whatever. One of the Copas. No, when they beat River Plate, I believe, in the final. And a crazy final. But other than that, I'm not very up to speed on him. I'm going to trust the judgment. I mean, I knew little to nothing of Achraf Hakimi before he came, because there were only snippets to be seen, really. So I'm going to trust the judgment of it. And obviously Dortmund did well with the last young 2-year loan signing from Real Madrid. For Madrid, this is great because Dortmund know how to develop players. He's going to get quality minutes if he performs well. One thing I did read, though, that he's had some scholastic issues. I don't remember if he flunked out or failed out or something, but either way, last school year he only attended 2 hours of school because he was focused on football and everything. And I mean, I get it. When I was 18, I'd skip school here or there as well, if it wasn't like a major thing. But I don't know, stuff like that. Sometimes I'm like, okay, there's some maturity issues. Again, he's just a kid. Everybody has maturity issues as a kid, but hopefully that won't actually be a major issue. Maybe it's just a side issue. But I think it can only benefit him as a player. It benefits Real Madrid. If it benefits Borussia Dortmund, honestly, only time will tell.
Well, he did say in his little interview when Dortmund presented him that he is right now trying to learn English and German. I will reserve any comment on any missed days or hours in school. I feel like as a 30-year-old, I still too have immaturity problems here and there. But honestly, I guess he will have to learn a little bit. Maybe when you join Dortmund at this point, it actually makes more sense to learn French. But if you look at the squad, I don't think there are too many players that can actually speak Portuguese. I don't know if Rafael Guerreiro speaks it. I assume since he's playing for the Portuguese national team. I don't know if Giovanni Reina speaks it. I would have to ask him. And who else has a Portuguese background? I don't know. You know, the only one who I know speaks Portuguese in the club is Daniel Stolper, the international press officer. So yeah, when it comes to communicating with others, he will need to pick it up a little bit more. I assume he talks a bit more Spanish now after spending half a year in Madrid, so he can maybe talk to Morey and such. But yeah, communication is obviously key, and we all know that especially Brazilian players sometimes have a hard time integrating unless your name is Dede. So yeah, we'll see about that. But overall, it's exciting to get a little bit of Brazilian flair back into the Bundesliga and back to Dortmund, because we didn't really have a Brazilian player since Felipe Santana, and I wouldn't say that he had a lot of Joga Bonito going on for him. So yeah, minus that game in Malaga, obviously. So yeah, I'm really intrigued how this pans out. Michael Zorc said yesterday, I think, that this season will give the word rotation a new meaning. I don't know if Lucien Favre will stick to that as well. But if we go back to the comment of Favre that he basically wants 2 full teams for this season, Lars today wrote a little piece for Fußball.news that Dortmund definitely need a right center back. Would you agree? Because right now Thomas Meunier is out injured with a muscle tear for, I don't know, 2 to 5 weeks, however long it takes. Dan-Axel Zagadou is out with a knee injury, and then you basically have Hummels, Akanji, and Emre Can if you want to count him as center backs. Obviously, Meunier is a right back, but I just wanted to mention him as an injured defender, and Marcel Schmerz is also injured, I should mention. So, you know, I feel like Dortmund at the back are a little bit stretched thin already.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got, like I said, I mean, you've got Piszczek there, but you can't necessarily count on him to always be able to play every match at this point, even though I think going into his final match as a professional footballer, season, he's probably going to be very, very motivated to make it his best. So that's actually kind of nice. I would say a backup right back, right center back, if there is a back three, it wouldn't be a bad option. On paper, theoretically, there are quite a few players there, but it may not be bad. I don't know if it's honestly going to happen. I don't know if there's any sense of that being a priority at this point, though.
Yeah, I feel like Favre wants something, but I don't know if Dortmund thinks there's a feasible player out there. I assume at this point, if you bring in someone, it will be on loan, but it's kind of weird because you would need to find a center back that either would be a talent or a more established player that somewhere else is a bit disregarded, you know, would have a feasible wage demand and at the same time would be happy to play backup. So if you you know have these characteristics and demand for a backup center back, it's really tough to find something on the market. I think Lars mentioned Papasokratis from Arsenal, obviously ex-Dortmund player, to bring him back, for example, which tells you already how little options are available out there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I feel like if Dortmund need to do something still in the transfer market, it's probably more in the backline than anywhere else. I mean, we have talked endlessly about the situation at the very top, that they only have one out-and-out striker with Erling Haaland. But yeah, it's It's not great. I'd say this because if either Hummels or Akanji get injured, and we all know about Hummels' back problems and Akanji's hip problems, the Dortmund then, I don't know, need to play with Collins or so at the back. So yeah, I'm not really too happy about that. But overall, so far, how do you like the transfer market panning out for Dortmund? And since I haven't discussed it with you yet, how happy are you about Jadon Sancho staying on?
Well, I think overall it's been a good transfer market for Dortmund. I think Meunier will prove valuable in the mid to long run. I think he's definitely a defensive upgrade at right back, but I just think an overall upgrade. He's a very good player. Jude Bellingham, another young English player for the future, knowing that Jadon Sancho will leave. I think this will be his last season. And the fact that he is staying doesn't really surprise me, just because I don't think Manchester United want to kind of match the price tag that not just Dortmund demand, but honestly, Jadon Sancho is worth. Just because it's the COVID year doesn't mean you have to sell him at a cut rate. Dortmund, despite posting officially a loss, an operational loss this season, they're still pretty flush with cash. They can afford to keep him around at least another season, and then look at it again after the season, and then, probably get more into the area of where the value is. And maybe a couple of other clubs will pop in then as well. So I think overall Dortmund have strengthened nicely. And Reina, as I will always call him now, coming in from Real Madrid. I mean, from an attacking standpoint, that wasn't really a major issue aside from maybe another striker. Dortmund will be very dangerous going forward. I think even more dangerous now, more options, more versatility, very solid overall. But yeah, I mean, another backup central defender, and then you've got all the parts in that you really need at this point. So no, I've been very pleased, in particular with keeping the core of the team together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we look at the second half of last season, you could see that something was growing together a little bit, and I'm definitely excited about the ascent of Gio Reyna. I think he will play obviously a more prominent role. Still waiting on his first Bundesliga goal, for crying out loud. But the preseason so far and the never-ending praise from Lucien Favre has at least indicated that that's exactly what he'll do, especially in the absence of Royce. So yeah, I think that's all in all a very positive preseason, especially of all your talents and stars. That you only lose Achraf Hakimi is quite great, and obviously I'm very much looking forward to the partnership of Haaland and Sancho on the field. That's obviously going to be spectacular. And I'm also a bit excited about Jude Bellingham and where he will be utilized, whether he will play as a number 8 or number 6 or number 10. Many options for Mr. Favre, so I'm already biting my fingernails to see that very first lineup sheet, and hoping no one in the meantime gets injured again. So, speaking of the financial numbers, what I found interesting that Hans-Joachim Watzke, the CEO of Dortmund, said that Dortmund have a turnover, if you don't calculate the winnings they make from that transfer business, that right now the turnover is at around 370 million, which isn't bad for a club of Dortmund's size, and it's also rather competitive, I would say, and usually they would grow even further, but right now obviously that's impossible due to the COVID crisis. And what I also thought was interesting and really pictures the financial despair, especially football clubs in Germany are in. I mean, Dortmund are a very big club, and others may have not as big of a loss on a match day revenue, but Dortmund are losing about 4 million euros per match day. at per home game, I should say. So that's already quite a lot of money, Matthias. But as you said, the club itself said that they will be fine for an extended period of not having any fans. Do you think that we will see fans coming back anytime soon? Because if I'm looking at the discussions between club officials and politicians in Germany, I'm rather pessimistic. And obviously, I think yesterday Germany announced the highest number of cases since April. So the curve is going up again.
Yeah, I mean, I know Union Berlin is always pushing for it, which is always weird that they're like really loud and vocal about this. You know, and when you look at the analysts of those increased numbers in Germany, obviously it's very focused on certain groups, people coming back from vacation, people who've gone to large gatherings and parties and not socially distanced, etc., etc. So obviously
I guess what a football game is.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tight space there. I mean, do I think we will see a full Westfalenstadion in this next season? No, I don't. The season after, so what would that be? 21, 22? I think so. I think we'll get a little bit more back there. Do I see any fans coming for the rest of 2020? No. Do I see maybe some form of fan returns this season? Maybe. But the question is, why at that point? You know, why are you doing it? Because the amount of fans that you would be able to get in and have the correct distances and so on, is that to make some fans happy? How do you choose those fans? You know, I mean, how do you pick anybody at any point? I forget which club it was, but I read something on Kicker that some club is not doing Dauerkarten, so not doing season tickets for the season for obvious reasons. And then if you do bring in some fans, say you do it a third of the capacity, because then you can guarantee people stay apart from one another to a point, because people still be fools, man. But then you have to look at the operating expenses from the club, from the community, because you still need police there. Security, you need to bring in more staff to, hey, are you going to have concessions open? Probably not. If you do, what's that going to look like? Obviously, you're not going to be filling up, you know, is it going to be bottled beer? Well, you can't have bottles. So it brings with it so many logistical issues that I just don't see a point for it, because you're not really going to get huge stadium atmosphere, because you can't have big blocks of ultras who are standing together, chanting and jumping and sweating and spitting, you know, not voluntarily spitting at each other, but it can happen. So it's kind of like, why? You know, I personally don't see a reason for it. It's too much of a risk still at this point. I'm not a COVID alarmist, as you know, Stefan. I'm not one who lives in fear of it for many reasons that I've also alluded to, even based on my own medical background. But I still believe, I always tell people, I'm not scared of COVID, but I don't need to go looking for it. And if you invite 80,000 people into a stadium, you're going to be looking for it. So I don't see fans coming back. I don't see a point in fans coming back for this next season. I would say just at least for the rest of 2020, no. And then you'll kind of have to see what's possible and why. Why would you do it at that point?
Well, I would add that Borussia Dortmund have hired an IT company that sets up like I guess a raffle for season ticket holders, because for the case that Dortmund do invite fans back, and I guess paying fans, in that scenario, you would have to have a raffle. But yeah, I think most fans, you know, actual stadium goers are of the opinion that either everyone can go or no one should go. But on the other hand, I don't know how practical that is, and I assume there will be a phase-in. What the president of Union Berlin is arguing is that basically right now there are only 600,000 COVID tests being used in Germany, and the capacity, I think the weekly capacity is 1.2 million. And he says, well, if there's available capacity, we could maybe use 20,000 fans, tests to test fans. And he says, if you want to spot the disease, maybe that's one extra way to do it. And so basically he would rely on his fans getting a test. And then, 36 hours later, they can, or however long it takes, they can all go into the stadium. Theoretically, that might sound like a bright idea, but as the mayor of Berlin pointed out, practicality is not applicable here as well as it sounds. And also, if you let 20,000 fans into the Alte Försterei in Berlin, then there are 35 other first and second Bundesliga clubs who also want to have similar concepts. But maybe there will be a test case somewhere in Germany where things are being tried out, because we mentioned it before. The financial strain is obviously very palpable for a lot of teams without the matchday revenue. But that's just something clubs will have to live with for probably the majority of this season, because I don't think either that we will see large crowds in stadiums anytime soon, especially with, I think, German authorities so far erring on the more cautious side, and also I think overall have been pretty responsible in the treatment of this pandemic. So it's kind of sad to say that the Westfalenstadion will be empty or mostly empty for an entire season. That's sort of not what we all want to hear and see. But sadly, that's how the situation is right now. But Matthias, it gets even more depressing because we have a new segment, and that's the Schalke segment. And that's because Schalke look like they're dead in the water right now. They lost their last two friendlies against the 4th division team Werl, and then also a 3-1 loss against KFC Uerdingen, a team that Dortmund, I think, defeated in the German Cup at the beginning of last season. And KFC Uerdingen are in the 3rd division, and of course have a player called Kevin Großkreutz, and Kevin Großkreutz scored in this particular game. It was from the spot. Someone got fouled, and of course, who else would shoot from the spot other than Kevin Großkreutz? And I actually looked it up, and it was his first goal against Schalke. Matthias, I've seen the I guess good 60 minutes of that Schalke team in against Uerdingen, and I have to say they are dreadful. Like, if you watch the Dortmund preseason friendly, and I know you're not trying to glean too much from it, but Jesus Christ, this is so bad. And there are already rumors that Dave Wagner may be out soon. I don't know about you, but I feel like the prediction that Schalke will be relegated is it's still very early in the season, but it looks more likely than unlikely at this point.
I said I don't really care about preseason friendlies. That's specific to Dortmund when things are going well. Because it's like, all right, so they beat Austria Wien. Okay, 11-2 is a little high. I mean, if I were an Austria Wien fan, I'd be like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, if I was Peter Stöger, I would be like, guys, I saved you here. Come on.
Exactly.
Cut me a little slack.
Exactly. I got you in the Champions League, man. I'm a Champions League manager. But if things are going poorly, like you can have a bad friendly, you're just not into it or whatever. But to have two in Werl, who will be playing against Preußen Münster, fortunately in the Regionalliga this season. I mean, that's beyond bad. And the problem you have with the likes of Schalke is you can't have preseason friendlies like this because of the way you played for 6 months, how you ended the season. You know everyone's looking at you. You know everybody thinks you're crap. And you have to show up in matches like that. Yes, Kevin Großkreutz scoring in a preseason friendly, of course, against Schalke. That's poetic justice at its best. But for Schalke in itself, it's definitely worrisome, given how they played and performed or down the stretch of the Bundesliga. You can't have performances like this when you know your fan base is on edge. And I just don't see David Wagner lasting out the season, to be honest.
Yeah, do you think, though, that whoever replaces him can do a better job, or do you think the side right now is actually just uncoachable?
I think it's just a bad team. You look at the fact that, of course, Nübel is gone. Kelly Jury, who isn't a good Bundesliga player, in my opinion. Like, he's not great. He's maybe average, but somehow oddly talismanic for them. He's gone. Then you don't know the people that went out on loan that are technically back. Are they going to leave again? And then now the big rumors around that Weston McKennie, who, even though I'm not a big fan of Weston McKennie, is really their only shining light that they had, but that he could be off to Southampton. What's there left? Who's going to go to a cash-strapped team that isn't playing for Europe, that won't be challenging for Europe, that is playing poor football, that's kind of becoming a running joke? I don't think they're going to get relegated. I think there are worse teams in the Bundesliga, maybe teams that just don't have enough about them. I think, Union Berlin will be struggling a bit. I think Bremen will be struggling again. Bielefeld, of course, I believe will be struggling. But that they're going to be battling against relegation, I think that's absolutely. And I think whether it's David Wagner or somebody else, they're not going to perform miracles at this point, because I just don't think they're going to have that first Tedesco season in terms of just crazy blind ass luck.
Yeah, well, you never know with Schalke. Sometimes they are very lucky. But if there's really one thing that really encaptures the absolute state that Schalke are in, is yesterday's Kicker reported that Schalke have given up on contract negotiations with Suat Serdar, who is one of their players that can actually kick the ball around for a little bit. His contract runs out in 2022, and they said he was supposed to be a building block for the future, but they said, well, we're giving up on any contract negotiations right now because it's just hopeless. And that's quite frank to sort of, I don't know if you want to say leak that to Kicker or just tell it to Kicker, but sort of describes in what kind of position they are in, because they're saying, look, we're just lacking the arguments right now. We're not able to offer Champions League football or Europa League or anything. And I think they also have, because they really need to restrain themselves financially, they put a salary cap on themselves, which means that no player, I guess, now can earn more than 2.5 million euros per year, which in the great scheme of things isn't all that much if you want to compete in the Bundesliga. So a club like Schalke usually should have at least a couple of players on at least a 5 million euro salary here and there. So yeah, it's really not going great for them, and this is sort of the consequence for them of being mismanaged by Clemens Tönnies for all these years and taking blood money from Gazprom and all that kind of stuff that's going on in this very shady club in Gelsenkirchen. And their wage bill has always been bloated, and now they sort of need to shrink back to who they really are, and it really comes at the worst possible time for them. So, which is why I'm playing the funeral march, because this is not turning around anytime soon, I think. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to a season full of Schadenfreude, if nothing else, Matthias. So, yeah, there you go. So before we end the show, we have a couple of listener questions. And at BVB Indie asks, with Piszczek giving up the armband, do you know the new pecking order of Dortmund captains? Reus, Hummels, Witzel, Bürki, something like that. Matthias, do you know?
No, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Reus, Hummels, and then we'll see. I mean, Piszczek stepping down, I think that, just the fact that it's his last season as a professional kind of makes sense. Let somebody else step into that role. I don't know if Witzel would be the right one necessarily. Bürki, yeah, could make sense. He is a leader on the pitch, and goalkeepers oftentimes have to be. Other than that, I mean, Emre Can, but he hasn't been with the club long enough, I think. But just his nature would kind of put him in that position. Thomas Delaney just isn't a high enough profile player, I think, and not regular enough starter. But I could see Reus, Hummels, Bürki, Can, and then maybe Witzel. Maybe.
Yeah, I think Witzel is actually a bit higher up than you give him credit for, but I'm not entirely sure. But I still think that's a good occasion just to talk about the greatness of Lukas Piszczek, because I think it's the right thing to do. And Mats Hummels right now, I mean, before he left, he was the Dortmund captain, and after the first season, to me at least, it seems that he is sort of assuming that role quite naturally again, especially in Marco Reus's absence. I mean, the club has firmly said that Reus will definitely be captain and whatnot, but, I think for Piszczek to sort of drop that responsibility is a very smart move, and obviously he knows that his word still has a lot of weight in the dressing room, but yeah, it's going to be weird without him. That's for sure, Matthias. I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah, it's going to be, extra sad that Lukas Piszczek has to sort of retire in a season where fans are not really around.
Yeah, I mean, he's been with the club for so long. I mean, it's you think back, Klopp, Piszczek, the glory years, unfortunately not winning the Champions League, getting really close there. And then a few seasons where you weren't sure, is this it? Has he just lost a step and he's come back? I don't know, not necessarily better than ever, but reinvented himself under Lucien Favre, the coach that really transformed him originally, of course, from a striker to a right back. And so, it's a little poetic that he's ending his career with Lucien Favre, and the man that really helped him have a very good career. But yeah, no fans, that kind of sucks. But that's just the world we live in right now. And he's mature enough now to kind of understand that. I think when fans get back and it's more back to normal, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Lukas Piszczek fan appreciation day or something at a home match where we beat Schalke 6-0 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he said personally that he is not the biggest fan of farewell games. He had something like that with Poland, and he doesn't like the attention. So yeah, we'll see what fans can do, but I'm sure they will do something for him, because obviously he will leave the club as an absolute legend. And we have another question, Matthias. And since you are our fashion expert in the wake of Lars, who isn't here, I'm very excited to hear your opinion. Jordan Clary asks, can you guys discuss the 3 new kits on the next episode?
This is Dortmund. This is our new cup jersey.
Bananas in pajamas are coming down the stairs. Bananas in pajamas are coming down in pairs. Bananas in pajamas are chasing teddy bears. 'Cause on Tuesdays they all try to catch them unaware.
Well, I don't know about you, Matthias, but I think the cup jersey or whatever it's called absolutely looks like a pajama. What are your opinions?
Well, I mean, after the polka dot years, I'm not necessarily the number one fashion guy to ask about this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that white shirt, I mean, like you said, it looks kind of like pajamas. It's a little weird. I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan of that. The tiger stripe things, it's not necessarily horrible, except for that, it's not terrible. That's praise, right? It's great versus, well, it's not horrible. If it wasn't for the black 1-in-1 square in the middle, that just totally kills any flow. I mean, I'll be honest, that black 1-in-1 square in the middle, I don't think you can, I mean, even if it was just a plain classic yellow and black jersey, it would still just look odd. But it kind of is what it is. But with those stripes or lightning, whatever that is supposed to be,
I think it's just inspired from Pokemon. I'm thinking of Electric here.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll hope. So if I remember correctly, the polka dot year was the year Dortmund got to was it the Champions League final?
No, wasn't that the first?
Or was the double?
No, that was the second Champions.
That's true.
Season.
But I mean, let's just hope the performance is better than the jerseys this year.
Yeah, I think I wrote for the Yellow Wall that this season's jersey is just ugly enough for a championship, because I feel like Dortmund's championship winning years haven't been blessed too much with beautiful jerseys. So I have to say the 2010-11 wasn't all that bad, to be honest. But the 11-12 one, the one you talked about, wasn't really great. But I also, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of the away shirt either. With the doodles in gray on the lower side. I don't know. It kind of looks a bit lazy. I really would have appreciated if they had went for the all black shirt that they rolled out for one special game. That would have been absolutely delicious. But that being said, obviously we can't blame Puma entirely for this, because I assume that they come up with a amount of draft pitches, and then Dortmund someone makes a decision of picking the shirt. So whoever that is, maybe we need to investigate. Maybe we need the Yellow Wall Hive to find that person so we can scold him or her. Not too happy. I think I read that the third kit with the little squares that looks a bit like a pajama for the cup competitions, the German Cup and the Champions League, has been inspired by the Dortmunder U-Gebäude, so the big building with which used to be obviously the Unionsbrauerei in hub of Dortmund. I'll be honest, even with the video wall that's on the top of it, I just don't see it, to be honest. I mean, it's a nice touch if that's how you try to inspire yourself for it, but it's really hard to glean that from that. Matthias, I don't know if your keen fashion eye can connect the dots here, but I just can't.
I didn't see that at all, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, or connect the squares rather, am I right? Anyway, I think that's a very good moment to end it. Thanks, Jordan, for that question. But we don't really have too many answers here. But I will say this: I like the training kit. So, if Borussia Dortmund or anyone wants to send us some, go ahead. And that all being said, Matthias, I think if Puma or whoever approaches us to do a giveaway or whatever, we will obviously immediately become total sellouts and
of course, that goes without saying,
and market these pristine garments. Anyway, in the meantime, Matthias, please tell our listeners how to get in touch with you on the old microblogging universe.
You can find me on Twitter at Matthias Zug.
Very well. You can find me at Stefan Butzko, and you can find all of us on Twitter and Facebook at Yellowwall. If you want to become a patron, please go to patreon.com/theyellowwall, where you then have access to our written content, where I occasionally translate interviews and write little features and opinions and whatnot. It's just $1 a month, and you support this podcast. As always, thank you everyone out there for listening. I hope you had fun listening to the show, and I don't know if we'll be back next week or not, because it's still pre-season and it's a bit touch and go for us. But anyway, until next time, and goodbye.